welcome back to a new video. Today I'm going to be talking about some things I wish I knew before I started collecting K-pop photo cards. I've been collecting for almost a year now, and I've really learned so much about trading and the whole trading K-pop community. I really sort of felt like I learned something new every day, and now looking at the beginning of my trading journey, there are so many things that have changed. I also feel like I've become more wiser about how everything works in the community, and I really felt like I think it would be nice to share things I wish I knew before I started collecting, because I used to do things completely different. I didn't really see some reasons behind things the way they are in the trading community, if you know what I mean. I also already made a whole video about how to start collecting K-pop photo cards, and I also have a whole video about my essentials for collecting. So I'm not gonna go through all of those things too much in detail, because I already have two whole videos about them, so make sure to check those out as well. But today I'm just gonna talk about things I wish I knew before I started collecting. And I think it will also come in handy for people who just started collecting, or maybe there are some things that people can possibly relate to. So yeah, that's why I thought it would be nice to make this video. The first thing I wish I knew before collecting was the whole pressure of collecting. Oh my god, I have to make a be real. I have to make a be real now, wait. But what was I saying? Yeah, the pressure of collecting everything. Because before I started collecting photo cards, I really didn't know there were things such as obviously I know there were album photo cards, but just all the things aside, pre-order benefits, lucky draws, merch cards, literally I really felt like K-pop companies have been going crazy for the past couple of years with the amount of photo cards you get with so many stuff. Literally some groups have 20 pre-order benefits per comeback, and I really felt like me, especially when I was starting to collect, I really felt like, oh, I have to collect every single thing, not even just album photo cards, also just pre-order benefits. So then I really noticed it was so overwhelming, and I also watched many videos of people of YouTube who actually decided to drop their collections because just keeping up with all that stuff was just getting too much for them. So that's when I also realized oh, it's okay to you don't have to collect literally every single thing. And also what I mean with collecting every single thing also really comes with album photo cards, because especially when you're collecting a certain member and you want to collect all the photo cards of that specific era of album, there are sometimes some photo cards that you are it's not really my favorite, or that pose they're doing is not very that cute, or you really feel like photo cards are very similar to each other. Some people maybe can probably also relate to this. Oh, but it's part of the collection, I have to collect it. But I also realized it's okay, if you don't like the photo card, you don't have to have it in your binder. It's totally fine. Okay, then you have an incomplete album photo card collection, but it's totally okay. It's literally, the end of the day, it's your collection, it's your rules. Basically, long story short, it's okay if you don't collect every single thing. So that's why I also just completely limited my Enhypen collection to only album photo cards, Weavers, pre-order benefits, and lucky draws is just something, if I like them, I'll get them, but it's just, I'm not I don't stick to them, if you know what I mean. Also, the second thing I wish I knew before collecting was, when in doubt, don't do it. I think we all have been there. We saw a photo card, but either maybe we just didn't have the money for it right now to buy it, or it's just you're not really sure if you really want it. It also has to do with the first thing I talked about, that you feel like there's a certain photo card you actually don't really want to, but for the sake of completing your collection, you just keep it and you just buy it anyways, or trade for it anyways. And also when it comes to trading, if someone offers you something and you don't really want to accept their offer because the photo card they're offering is not something you completely need, and it's just okay to say no. I've been in a position once where someone was asking to trade, but I just low-key didn't really want to trade, but maybe just I was also just a bit too scared to say no. So that's why I just went for it anyways and traded away photo cards I actually didn't want to trade away. But right now, looking back, it's okay because I wasn't collecting those members anyway. But I was like, why am I getting photo cards in return I also don't want? You know what I mean? So it's just when those things if it doesn't feel totally right to get it, or you're sort of doubting a little, I would say don't do it. So it's okay to say no to people who offer you stuff. But then it's also the thing with joining group orders, which I'll get to it later. Also, lots of group order managers have as a rule that you shouldn't be backing out, and I do understand the reason why they don't want people to back out, because the last thing they want is being left behind with items that were originally claimed, but then suddenly they have to pay it out of their own pocket again because someone decided to back out. So it's just also with those things, like, you really have to be 100% certain if you want to get something or not. Also, the third thing, like, which I really wish I knew, was patience. Like, and I'm not saying that I am very impatient, but it's just when I want to get things done, I'm always the type of person who wants to get things done as fast as possible, and I know that's not always a very good characteristic of mine. Like, and also with like completing collections, I've really learned that it really takes patience. And also when I started collecting, I also wanted to find some like weavers pops from Enhypen, especially the fever ones, and it's just when those things were like so hard to find, I tend to become really frustrated, like, oh, but I just want to like have this as fast as possible. And also with like bulk buying cards, like just to have everything like real quick. Like at the same time it can be a good thing, but at the same time not. So like I would say only do that if you can actually afford it. Like back then at the time I could afford it, but since I don't have a job anymore, I do have to like keep an eye on what I'm spending on with photo cards. So yeah, and now I just also learned, especially with album photo card collections, like it's okay. Like for example, I completed Manifesto in two or 2.5 months, while maybe first in the beginning I would have loved to complete it in like 2 weeks. But also especially with album collections, like it's okay like to take your time, especially if the album gets reprinted every single time. There's literally no rush to complete those collections, like unless it's like lucky draws or pre-order photo cards, then I do sort of understand like the pressure to finish it quick, because those things only get printed once and don't get reprinted the whole time compared to album photo cards. With those things I get it, especially also if it's photo cards from albums that are out of print, then I get it. But it's just with album photo cards, I would just literally say, as long as the album is still in print, don't feel pressured to like complete the collection like ASAP. Like I also really learned about patience. And also the same thing like when it comes to trading or buying from some people, like some people cannot just like send out the same day or tomorrow, so that's also really something like you have to keep an eye on. So like sometimes people are only available to send out in a couple of days. Some people have like fixed sending out days. So now, but then it's also like really important to communicate. Also, the fourth thing I want to talk about is group orders. Literally for almost every like big group and album releases, you can always find people who are doing group orders for them. For those who don't know the concept of a group order is basically like you have this group order manager who buys the albums for you, so for their like participants. So on Instagram or on social media, you can basically like apply for their group order, and that group order manager basically can like buy the albums, bulk buy the albums for you. Group order managers can have many different reasons why they want to. Sometimes they want to apply for a fan call, so that's why they host group orders. So they can apply for a fan call, or they just want to like help people out with their collections, and also just maybe for their own collections they like to like host group orders. So people have many different reasons. And there are also actually like group orders for photo cards, so not just albums as well. Like if someone is selling this big like set of photo cards, and someone could also do group order for that. So personally myself, I have never organized a group order. I actually did try to organize a group order once, but I had to cancel the group order because the set was sold. And also I really noticed that some group order managers are not really the nicest people. Don't want to spill any tea, but like I'm not saying that about all group order managers, because there are some lovely out there, but there are sometimes people who are not very nice. And yeah, I've also group order managers who like to make profit out of their group orders, while the like unwritten rule is basically like there shouldn't be any profit for the group order manager. I also really never really understood that concept of like why they shouldn't be making any profit. But like maybe a small profit I get, but like if it's like big profit of like hundreds of dollars, then I also really don't agree to that, because for example they bought a set somewhere and it was actually quite cheap, but the group order manager is selling it for like more than originally cost. So yeah, it's just I want to include this in here because I really never really understood the concept of group orders before I started collecting. So yeah. And the next thing I wish I knew before collecting was all about proofs. So I'm talking about building proofs, checking other people's proofs. And when I first like did my trades, like I never like provided proof of the person. Like I would only text the person like, oh hey, it arrived, thank you so much. And then when they would ask me like, oh, can you maybe take a picture of the photo card and send it to me so I can use it as proof? So I was like, wait, what are they talking about? Like I really didn't understand that concept. And then when I was like checking other people's highlights, they were always like reposting it and they had like a proof highlight. So I was like, wait, like, and then I was like, oh, I get it. So they build up proof so people know that like they're not really a scammer and they are reliable. Like obviously even people with like thousands of proofs can still be a scammer. So I really personally disagree with the whole thing, like, oh, if they don't have proofs they're most likely a scammer. Like literally everyone started somewhere, so I don't really think you can literally pinpoint people like, oh, you must be a scammer if you don't have any proofs. So yeah, this whole like concept of proofs was also like quite new for me when I started collecting. So oh, and also the next thing, I actually didn't write this down on my list, but it's something I actually like just realized, so I do actually want to talk about it right now. It's this whole concept of like accounts especially dedicated to trading, because I really noticed that there were like lots of people who didn't want to trade or sell to personal Instagram accounts. Like because like at the beginning when I wasn't really into collecting and when I wanted to buy or trade a photo card, I really noticed that some people were like, oh, I don't trade or sell to personal Instagram accounts, like you have to be a trading or a selling account. Like I sort of still feel like, okay, with trading, at the same time I do understand why people prefer not to trade with personal accounts, because personal accounts don't post like things like as proofs on their stories, and they also don't have a proof highlight on their stories. So because it's like a personal account just for personal content and not anything K-pop related. But at the same time, would it be wrong if I would say that it's sort of like discrimination, if you know what I'm talking about? Like you're literally deciding not to interact with a personal account just because they are a personal account. Like, so if they just want to buy the photo card just because they want to, like, why not? Like that's why I'm also a little bit iffy about, like, for example, if someone with a personal account would reach out to me, then I wouldn't like refuse trading or selling with them. Maybe I would ask them to send out first, so since they don't have any proofs. I think in that sense I wouldn't refuse them, but I would ask them to send out first. But with buying, it's like, if it's a personal account, then why does it matter? Like if they just want to buy it, like as long as they pay, then it's just totally fine, right? Yeah, so that's why I also think things I wish I knew. Like also with my K-pop account, in the beginning I wasn't really active on it, and if people would see that, then they were like, well, you don't really look like an active K-pop account. So I was like, and then you have that. So obviously I'm quite active in the collecting community now, so it's now a different story. And the next thing I wish I knew before collecting was all about PVC and acid-free binders, pocket pages, and also sleeves. I always used to be the type of person who would just keep her photo cards in the albums, and I didn't have like a very whole binder with pocket pages and stuff like that. But when I really did feel like I wanted to invest in binders and pocket pages, I really didn't know there was this whole thing like it should be PVC and acid free, or else they can like sort of damage or discolor the photo cards. And now I actually like do keep an eye on if things are PVC and acid free, because obviously since collecting, like it's very something dear and special to me. I really love it as a hobby, so obviously I want to be careful with my photo cards. So that's why I really look into PVC and acid free things. So yeah, but it's also just something I didn't know before I started collecting, so that's why I included it in here. And also like the fact that there are like different kinds of binders was like so interesting. Like people can just literally like buy a normal A4 binder and put 9 pocket pages in here, but then you also have things like A5 binders. This very cute, so I also recently invested in those. Like it's just like the fact there are like so many like different photo card binders. Also this very cute A5 binder fonts was also like quite interesting. So yeah. And the next thing I wish I knew before I started collecting, which is also a really important one I want to talk about, is overpricing and member pricing. Like before I started collecting, I really didn't know there was such thing as overpricing photo cards. Like, I remember the first like overpriced photo card I bought was Teddy one from Border Carnival album. Like, I bought that Teddy one for $20 on eBay, and then later I discovered like, oh, I really shouldn't have paid so much. Like, if because Teddy one is just still an imprint album photo card, but since like it's a photo card that's very high demand, people really see it as a great chance of overpricing it and making profit of them. So, but then I realized like it was only like worth $7, and I really shouldn't have paid a lot more than that. So I really do not condone overpricing. It's just literally back then I legit didn't know that there was a thing as overpricing. So I really wish also someone would told me that before I started collecting. So now I also like know all about it, like how much photo cards should cost if you're gonna sell them, or if you're seeing them on sale, that there's a certain price they have to be sold for and not more or that. Like with underpricing, like I'm not fully against underpricing. Like, for example, if you're underpriced a photo card because you really cannot seem to sell it, then I get it. But I'm like, as long as you don't overprice the other member and underprice the other members, then I believe it's wrong. Yeah, and also with member pricing, I literally didn't know that was also a thing. Like, especially members who are the most high demand, like for example, Won Young from IVE. Or I also really noticed like with Enhypen's Jungwon, it really feels like at some sites I see that Jungwon's photo cards are higher price than the other members. And also like you really see it with BTS, like how the Maknae line's photo cards are like higher price compared to the Hyung line. So like I really also believe the member pricing is totally wrong, because I don't believe the one member is worth more than the others. All members are equal, so I really feel like member pricing really has to stop. So yeah, about the whole overpricing, member pricing, I wish it was something I knew before I started collecting. So but then you also have to like, I think it's also like quite hard, for example, if an album is out of print, hence the photo cards don't get printed anymore, then where is like that straight line, where is that line of like, oh, this is an overpricing of like, oh, but since it's out of print they are a lot more worth now. I think that's still like a sort of a discussion thing. So for example, I have Heesun Glasses photo card from the Border Hakanai solo jackets, and there are people who are literally willing to pay $100 for it, and every time I do see it up for sale, it's always up for bidding, so the highest offer gets to buy it. There are some people who are like, no, this is overpricing, but I'm like, the album is literally out of print and the photo card isn't like available anymore just to get it. So personally, then I don't really see why not if people do offers, like especially since the photo card is out of print and it's very high demand. And also, thing I wish I knew before collecting, and it also has to do with like building up proofs, is the concept to send out first. So when I was like new to collecting and didn't have much proofs yet, lots of people did ask me to send out first, and I think that is totally fine. But like also what did like make me worry a little bit. It was like, what if the photo card didn't arrive, or what if it would take too long, and then also I would have to wait a lot longer for them to send out. So yeah, that was also really a thing. But since I have a bunch of proofs now, I just pretty much got over it. And I also do ask people to send out first, because I really do understand that people do not want to take the risk of getting scammed. But like I said, like just because someone doesn't have enough proofs doesn't automatically mean they're a scammer. But I do sort of understand the reason behind why there is a rule in the community that if someone has like, for example, less than 10 clickable proofs, they will ask to send out first. What I also had a situation one time was actually someone was asking me if I could send out first, while I literally had sort of like quite a lot of proofs in my opinion. Like I maybe had like 15 proofs, and nowhere in their info it said they have to at least have a minimum amount of proofs or they will send out first. So that's why I was a little bit like, oh wait, why, when they asked me to send out first. But I didn't want to come off as rude or something like that, and I really wanted the photo card, so I just went for it anyways. But I really feel like personally, if you have like more than 20 proofs and someone asks you to send out first, especially if they have less proof than you, then I personally really find it weird, and I think it's okay to call them out on it. Because I really feel like if I'm in a situation like this next time, because I literally have like over 40 proofs now, if someone would ask me to send out first again, I would literally ask them, well, why? I have like over 40 proofs. So the thing is, like, with as long as you like have less than 10 proofs and make sure they're also clickable, so so that you literally actually repost the story of someone, and you actually literally repost the story post of someone thanking you for trading, because then people actually can know it's legit, be that the person actually interacted with them. Because if it's only just screenshots, then it can probably be less reliable, because anyone can basically make screenshots and pretend it's proof. So I also just wanted to mention that, just to make it clear on how to make proofs. So, and also definitely a thing I wish I knew before collecting was the packaging of photo cards. Like when I had my first ever trade, I didn't even sleeve my photo card. I just basically like put a piece of paper around it, just put it in the envelope, not even a thank you card, not even freebies. I just put it like that in the envelope. And meanwhile, I did like get like a whole thank you card bag. I got the PC in a sleeve. I even got freebies. So that's why I felt so bad towards that person I packaged it like that. But I think they were like totally like fine with it, and they just knew that like, oh, I'm not really like that familiar with collecting. So I really wish that was something I also knew before collecting and trading. And also really like the security of packaging photo cards, like packed safely and like stuff like that, with like a card, a top loader, sleeve and stuff like that. Now I actually know all about it, but it's just something I really didn't know anything about before I started collecting. So like I said, I also have this whole video about my essentials for collecting and trading, and also how to trade and collect. So if you want to see those videos, you can check those out. And also things I wish I knew was like address confirmation and packaging proof. Like I really didn't know there was this such thing as like that you have to show them that you packed them, and also like, hey, is your address correct? I really didn't know about those things. Like also with my first trade, I didn't even ask them like, hey, is the address correct? I just only like, that's the thing I did know, like this about sending proof. Like I did make a video of me putting it like in the mailbox, so I knew about that. So but it's just like the whole thing, like, oh, packaging, address confirmation. So I'm actually glad I got to learn because of that. Whenever I was having my first few trades, like people were already doing that, so I was like, okay, so this is also a part of like trading and stuff like that. So that's why I also really learned that it's very important. First I was literally like, why is address confirmation like so important? Like, because it's their responsibility to write the address right. But like then I also noticed, like, luckily it never happened to me that I like didn't do an address confirmation and the mail never arrived to them. Like luckily that didn't happen to me, but I did like see it happen at other people, that they didn't do a confirmation and just put it in there without checking if the address was correct, and then in the end it turned out like the postal code was wrong or something was wrong, which made them lose the mail, really. So you really don't want to be in a situation like that. So, and I also had happen one time that I was someone was like sending me like, hey, is the address correct? And I'm really glad they did, because they literally wrote a completely different house number on my address, and I was like, no, that's not my house number, that is my house number. Like I was literally like, but I was like so flabbergasted because it was like a completely different house number. I was like, that's not my house number. How did you even get to that number? Like I literally wrote my address in the chat so you can like see there, so how did you write a completely different number? Like I was literally flabbergasted. So that's why it's also very important to always do address confirmation, because what if people write the wrong house number or postal code, like, you know, so you don't want to be in a situation like that where you get your mail lost. So that's why it's also very important for address confirmation. And also when also really feel like lots of people who say that they are not responsible for lost or damaged mail, I do feel like you are responsible for those if you didn't do a proper address confirmation. So the last thing I wish I knew before collecting was the concept of recycling package materials. Like I really didn't even like stand still about the fact like, oh, you can actually basically reuse like packaging materials. For example, if a trade arrived to you, you can basically like just reuse the card and the top loaders and everything. Like it's actually quite cool, and that way also it's helps the environment a little. Yeah, I would also like really recommend that to everyone. Just if they're in still quite a good state, you can reuse them. What I wouldn't reuse is envelopes. Like have a fresh new one. I wouldn't reuse envelopes. Like I know some people are like, oh, but you basically just cross out or put a sticker above the old address. Like still, people can just literally peel off the sticker and see the old address. So, and also mostly used envelopes have like this barcode of the postal office, so I would just be like, just use a new envelope. Like, I really feel like everything's okay to recycle apart from envelopes. So that's why I still have like a bunch of old cards in my drawer ready to be reused whenever I'm going to be packaging up trades and sales again. So, and also with like freebies, like it's so funny because I also didn't write freebies in my notes, so it's actually something that just came to mind. Like it's okay to reuse freebies. Like sometimes I got freebies of like groups I didn't really collect or don't really stand. So I was like, what can I do with those? So I just literally just pass them on to the next person. Like, I really feel like that's such a nice way of like reusing freebies as well, to just pass them on to the next person. Like, why would you keep freebies? And because I also really heard that people would just throw them away, and I'm like, why would you throw them away? You could make someone else happy with it. Like, and also I really noticed, like, I also wish I learned before collecting photo cards, like freebies is not an obligation, because I sometimes really felt like, oh, I really feel bad if I didn't give freebies to that person, but that one person did for me. So, but then like I really learned that freebies is really not that big of a deal. So if you don't do it, it's not the end of the world. People are not going to hate you for it if you didn't put freebies in there. But I really do believe there are some people out there who are really bitter like that. Like, it's just freebies, chill. So just basically, long story short, it's okay to recycle, including freebies. So yes, that was actually the end of my video of things I wish I knew before collecting photo cards. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and of course subscribe. Also let me know if there is something you wish you knew before you started collecting, and leave it in the comments down below. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys, and I see you next time in a new video. Bye bye.